Okay. So now we are being filmed or recorded. So we did send out an email earlier. It should have your application in it. We'll be using that. We'll be going over that a little bit tonight. You can feel free to go through it as we talk about it. It's not required, but just if you have that open, you can look at that as well. I'll be doing some staff introductions. It's kind of hard because we only have one computer, but we'll do what we can. So
We'll have the images.
Yeah, images, and I can show you, just so you can see that I am actually Chris and not Forrest. So, oops, I guess I got to clip back on this thing. Okay. All right, so that's me, Chris Donner. I'm the lead instructor at MC Suites. And Forrest Austin, which you might have seen earlier, he's the lead instructor at the Johnson County Government Building. So yeah, we'll have answering your questions here tonight. And Tina Howard, she's down there running the tech side of it, making sure there's a chat and getting everyone checked in. She might be sending you messages if your screen name doesn't match something that's on our RSVP list, just to make sure everyone's here that wanted to be here. So we can send them a reminder for the next one if that's the case. So if you get a chat message, it's probably just Tina saying, hey, who are you, and all that kind of stuff. So then Bernadette, she's in the room with us here too. You'll be seeing her a little later. And then Susie, she's from Olathe School District, but she's also been loaned to us as a skills trainer at the Johnson County program. So these are the people that run the program with us. Okay, I'm going to start this video. Usually when we have Zoom videos, it's choppy. We are going to send out the link to the video with the recording, with the recording, so you can rewatch and stuff, and so that way you can watch it if it's too choppy right now. It is only about 4 or 5 minutes long, so it shouldn't be too long of a distraction. But we'll go ahead and start that. Hopefully it just starts. Or I have to push play. All right. Can you?
My hours are 7:30 to 4:15 every day.
All right, we're gonna try and get
Inside one of Cincinnati.
I think the sound's not working.
Yeah, Tina, was the sound working on that?
I might be able to. I think I can fix it.
Not well.
Okay, let me try that.
Try it again.
I think that should fix it.
All right, we'll try this one again.
Cincinnati's top banks, you'll find new employee Edie Ballman crunching numbers. However, Edie's journey to getting hired at Fifth Third Bank's central file room is different than most. She has a disability, autism, but that didn't stop her from pursuing her goal of getting a full-time job after high school.
I've been using good organizational skills, being part of a team, and giving good eye contact.
Edie joins a growing list of graduates from a program that started at Cincinnati Children's called Project Search, the brainchild of Aaron Riley.
I was the nursing director of the emergency department here at Cincinnati Children's, and I happened to look out in the lobby and was struck by the fact that many of the people coming to us as patients were people with disabilities. And yet, when I checked behind the scenes, there weren't many opportunities for these young people to grow up and continue to be involved in Children's as employees.
Aaron partnered with Susie Rakowski at Cincinnati Children's, and together they came up with the Project Search curriculum. It focuses on young people with disabilities between the ages of 18 to 22. In their final year of high school, those students leave the classroom and move to Cincinnati Children's or another host business to intern for the entire school year.
Many of the young people have had low expectations for them from family members, from schools, and we have to change that in a very short period of time. And so we're looking at things like grooming and hygiene, communication, problem-solving skills, independence in time management.
Project Search is an intensive 9-month course for a group of 10 to 12 students that involves a combination of classes, skill assessments, skills training, and evaluations from a team including the instructor, managers, and skills trainers. Each day begins and ends with an instructor keeping them on track.
We would do a lot of reflection in Project Search every day. At the end of the day, we come back and I'll ask them, what did you learn about yourself today? What can you take from today and improve tomorrow? Because I feel like that's so important.
Today, Project Search is beyond the walls of Cincinnati Children's and has expanded to more than 500 programs across the U.S. and the world.
Our overall employment rate among all of our programs is 75.5%, and that makes us one of the best, if not the best, transition program in the United States.
We understood that individuals with disabilities through Project Search is an untapped market. It was an untapped recruitment stream that we could have access to, bring them in, train them on the types of jobs that we have, give them the skills needed so that they can transition into permanent employment. And we've seen great success with that here at Fifth Third, but we've also seen great success with employment in the communities as well.
Also expanding the variety of jobs, Project Search graduates now work in a range of industry sectors. Cengage, an educational services and publishing company, recently joined the growing list to offer not just training and marketable skills, but opportunities for career growth that includes benefits, incentives, and retirement options.
I'd love to run all my employees through those classes. I would, about budgeting and about money and how to handle difficult situations. That life piece, combined with being in a real life work environment, is what makes Project Search completely different than anything else that I've ever seen. And that's why those folks are able to make that transformation and be successful.
A key part of the success is definitely that both sides see and learn something new about the other.
Changing the culture of families and the general perception of people with disabilities is what Project Search is all about. Just ask Edie.
My favorite thing about coming to work every day is getting all the work done and being on task.
To change the culture of businesses and organizations, to change the culture of just the general public about the perception of people with disabilities and what they can and can't do.
I'm awfully proud that because of this hospital and Project Search, there are thousands of people with disabilities working around the United States and the world that wouldn't have been otherwise had it not been for this program.
Okay, so yeah, that was a video about Project Search. It started in Cincinnati. They talked about the host business being at the Fifth Third Bank, or they have hospitals as well. We have a video that we've been trying to put together for a couple of years, but then COVID happened and we just haven't got it together. One of the more local videos that we could have. But just kind of some of the highlights of Project Search is it is a 9-month education, skills training, and employment program for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It is for adults 18 and over. It's designed to provide high integration and independence. A lot of the times you'll have programs that don't have both, and so that's part of the great deal of Project Search, is having both the integration and the independence. And then the goal after the 9 months is to have a competitive job in the community, and that's defined as 16 hours or more. So it's not quite full-time, but it can be 16 higher, but at least 16 hours, making the prevailing wage, meaning whatever other employees make, not just minimum wage for them, non-seasonal work too. So that's kind of just the basics of idea of what we define a job is. So we have some partners here, everyone here, but I guess Susie does not work for Johnson County Developmental Sports, but we all do. It's a agency of Johnson County. And Project Search is a national program. So we teamed with them and got it brought here to Kansas and Johnson County so we could provide employment services for the residents of Johnson County. And like I said, the host businesses, it's business led. So like all of our day-to-day stuff takes place at one of our host businesses. We have two here. We have the Johnson County Administration Building, which we are in currently. And then we also have the Embassy Suites that is over on Ridgeview and K10. And so there's policies that we follow for Project Search, and there's policies that we follow for the businesses as well. So lots of different expectations and rules. So here again, in 2014, we started at the Johnson County Government Building. And then a couple years later, we started at the Embassy Suites, and we've been there ever since. So those are our two in Johnson County that we are lucky to have host businesses with. We do have some off-site rotations, but the main starting point and day-to-day activity do happen at these two buildings. And as I mentioned in the program, overall, Project Search was something around 75% for all the programs throughout the country, and international and other countries as well. But as you can see here, 2014, 2015, the first year of the program, we had 100% placement. That means everyone that graduated found a job that met the requirements within, what is it, 6 months or so, or 9 months after the program ends.
At that time, it was actually a year.
Okay.
Now it's 9 months.
Yeah, 9 months now, but at the time we had a year. And so that continues on, 70 to 79%. Again, then 100% and 100% for both. 17, 18, 80s, 100% again, 70s, 80s. So if you look at other programs that aren't Project Search, I mean, even within Johnson County Developmental Supports, some of their placements are in the low 20s. So we feel we're really successful when we get up to the 70% mark and that kind of stuff. So it's a really good program that has lots of good outcomes. So our typical daily, weekly schedule here is you would arrive at your host business through a bus that would pick the intern up from their house. Should be free of charge for the intern, and take them to either the admin building or the embassy suites. They usually arrive about 8:30. That's when our 8 o'clock, and then the classroom time starts at 8:30, and that goes till 9:30 each Monday through Thursday. And then from 9:30 to 11, they're at their internship, and that's just one of the different departments inside the hotel or departments inside the admin building. Then they have a 45-minute lunch. Sometimes it's an hour lunch, which is pretty nice. We don't usually get that long lunches on jobs. Then after lunch from 12:15 to 3:15, they're back at their internship. That's Monday through Thursday. And Friday, we're in the classroom all day. And so we can kind of catch up on the week, see what needs to be improved upon or what we need to kind of work on a little more, just have a little more instructional time. So it turns out to be about 20 hours at their internship, and then 10 hours of instruction time for the week. And during those 9 months, we have 3 internship rotations throughout the year. The different rotations are the different departments. In those different departments, that it models really closely to what the businesses would be hiring for. So they learn skills, not just of what their hard skills would be. They'd also learn some soft skills, like how to talk to your manager appropriately, how to ask for time off, and those kind of things. And the biggest thing is it learns marketable job skills. I mean, they can take these job skills that they learn here and they can transfer them as well to any similar job or anything else. It is an unpaid internship. Sometimes we do have funding for a paid rotation or two, but that is something that's pretty unique to Johnson County Project Search with the paid internships, that we were able to kind of do that, but usually they are unpaid. And so here's the overall calendar, just to kind of get an idea of what you might be getting into. It does closely follow the school year calendar. We are adults, but we do kind of follow a school year model just to make it easier, start in August, end in May, those kind of things. The different colors are different rotations. The white or the yellow are our transition weeks, where we reset in between rotations. That's where we'll interview for our next rotation. That's where we'll maybe have some other classes that we teach. And the red is time off, so that we do get time off during this 9 months for different holidays or vacations or that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just a 9-month program, so it kind of lays it all out there on the calendar like that. And COVID-19 precautions, we're still anticipating having some sort of precautions. We have masks required at some locations. We still do require some physical distancing. We talk about hand washing and sanitizing a lot more, and just kind of being a little more heightened aware of your illnesses. We're not currently requiring any sort of vaccination, but that's your choice that you can get or not. And And then when the guidelines change, we kind of, we follow our host businesses and the Johnson County Department of Health. So when that changes, we'll change too. If it gets more strict, we'll get more strict. If it gets a little lax, we'll get a little more lax. But the goal is just really to keep everyone safe and healthy. And so we try to do that as best we can by following guidelines set out by Department of Health. All right, that is my subject so far. Does anyone have any questions about what we've talked about as of yet? We will be getting into other things, but if there's anything specific, you can go ahead and unmute and let me know, or we can move on to the next section. You can always type the questions you like as well. All right, I'm not seeing a rush of people unmuting or wanting to ask questions. So,
and also, suppose you know how you can also raise your hand.
Oh yeah, maybe there's a raise hand function.
There's a raise hand button, and that makes it easy for us to see. So if you do have a question, you can even raise your hand during the presentation, and when we get to the question section, then we'll know that you have something you want to ask.
Yeah.
Just for the future.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Forrest, and the name tag will match the person. So I'll see you later in the evening.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Yeah, so just as a reminder, my name is Forrest Austin. I am the lead instructor at Johnson County Government Project Search. So is that second photo you guys saw. What we're going to talk about next are some presentations that previous interns have put together. So this is kind of help visualize what some of our internship experiences might be like from the perspective of previous interns. Typically in the past, what we'd do is we'd actually have interns present some of these things themselves. It wasn't really logistically realistic this time, but we like to make sure that our applicants just kind of have some information from the perspective of people who've done the program before. Something that may be handy to reference is, just to go back for a second, that calendar that Chris talked about. Because when we talk about rotations, we're talking about things interns did during one of these colored blocks of time, right? So see in that purple area, that's like our first rotation area. So next year, that's going to be from September to mid-November. Second rotation is that very tail end of November to mid-February. And then third rotation's that, oh, and I mixed around January and March, darn it. But yeah, it's that March to May area. I'll fix that for next time. Anyway, so let's look at some of those. So here's a few slides from some interns from the last few years. So all of our interns are high school graduates. In that video you guys watched earlier, then they're talking about Project Search. They talked about how it's typically a high school transition program. So many program models are held, or day-to-day activities are held by school districts, and they use that as a transition program for seniors to transition to the workforce. But we're actually an adult model. And so we work with people who've already graduated from high school. We do occasionally have some people who might be in their last year of eligibility with the leave of the school district that can use us as a transition program at a high school. We don't have that every year, but sometimes people have done that. It's part of our partnership with them. But yeah, when you go through this, you'll see these examples of people who've already graduated. In this person's example, they graduated high school and actually did an access program first, right? Some of you might be familiar with that. That's another type of transition program. They did a rotation at one of our offsite rotations called CENTOS. So you heard Chris mention that we have our two host businesses. So he's the lead instructor of the Embassy Suites. I'm the lead instructor at Johnson County Government. However, although a lot of our internships are at those sites, not all of them are. We give people chances to do things outside of those host business sites too. And like Rich was talking about, they're modeled to be pretty similar to what the positions they actually have at the company are. So this person was actually doing the mat rolling position there, which was rolling the mats, organizing them for them, trying to get a certain quota of them done a day. So when you're looking at that calendar, that's what this person was doing that first chunk of time from September to about mid-November, where we're at now, right? And then second rotation, they did an internship at the Embassy Suites Hotel and Convention Center, where Chris is lead instructor of. And in this example, they did a public area, so they did this like custodial work there. So throughout the year, people do 3 different work experiences. They'll do one thing first, and they'll do a different thing second, and that's that purple area, you guys. Oh, actually, that's the blue area, right? That's from December through mid-February. And then they'll do a third job, right? That's so if you're looking at what interns are doing this year right now, they're just finishing first rotation and they're about to begin second rotation. And so they're in that in-between area between those two right now. Here's another example. This is someone that was in the Embassy Suites class a couple years ago. They're also a high school graduate. Now, something I want to point out is that we do get a lot of applicants from people who are recent high school graduates. So either just graduated from high school or graduated a few years ago, and they're trying to find options to help them succeed in the workplace. But not everyone is. Some people, like Chris said, it's 18 plus. So we've had people over 30 and over 40 before. So it can be a good option for people in those situations as well who are trying to find a way to be more successful in the workplace. So in this person's case, they'd been out of high school for a little bit. They actually did that same public areas rotation that the other person did second rotation. So sometimes, you know, you'll be in a class with other interns, and you might be in one internship first, but then someone else might come there after you, or vice versa, right? And so you might share some of the same experiences that some other people did, even though you're not there at the same time, right? And then they did another rotation at the hotel as a houseman runner, which is at the same place but different job duties, right? It's just another part of what that hotel needs to function. And so a lot of times, although not always, but a lot of times when you're at a host business, at one of those 2 host businesses, you're going to start off primarily doing internships there and then generally branch out after that. We've been doing it a little different these last few years because of limitations we've had because of COVID-19, but that's the general idea, that you start off with host business related internships before you do off-site ones. And then just a couple other quick examples. This is an example of someone who worked at a site here at Johnson County Government with planning and codes. So that's a more clerical based rotation. There they kind of help focus more on going through files and organizing them. And then sometimes they get to use the map plotter and scan things through that. So that's kind of cool. And then this is someone who did a on-site rotation here at Johnson County Facilities. This is from a number of years ago, but you know, we've been doing this since 2014. So kind of have a few from older ones in there. And yeah, that's custodial work. So and kind of just working independently, going through the building and cleaning different parts of the building that are assigned to them, just like an employee here would, right? And then one more example. This is another example of an offsite rotation. And so sometimes we do partner with business offsite to do other kinds of work experiences. And this is someone who is doing dishwashing at Sodexo at Olathe Health. So in their food services area, it's a really cool place to get a chance to try work at. Okay, and those are some examples of those. So hopefully that gives you some better picture of what some of those work experiences are like and kind of how the different internship rotations work. I am going to spend a bit going through the application and talking about some parts of that now. Like Chris mentioned, in the email I sent you, that was me, you should have gotten a copy of an electronic version of the application in there. So it's good to have that open if you can, and kind of look at that as we go through, so you can kind of see what part of the application I'm talking about. Tends to be helpful. So let's get started. While you're getting that ready, one thing I'm going to point out is that you'll notice that I put some not so subtle labels in there, right? In the top right corner of the pages that say either keep or return. It's kind of self-explanatory, but just to go over it real quick, what that means is that the pages that say keep, you don't have to turn back into us. They're for you to hang on to for your reference, right? I'm not going to be mad if you send it to me, but I'm going to be like, well, okay, that's nice. I didn't need this. You could have kept it, you know, it's for you to look at, right? However, the pages that say return, we do need back, okay? And so if you look at it, it's kind of two distinct sections. The first half is pretty much this part you keep. The second part is the part we need back, with the exception of the very last page, which you also keep, which is our calendar, right? And it's a version of the calendar for next year. That's not in the wrong order, like I put it. Yeah, that's for you to reference to, so you kind of know when you're applying the time frame that you're trying to commit to, right? Okay. Yeah, it'll let me keep going, I'm sure. There we go. So first we're going to look at page 2, and it's kind of in the second half there, the part I want to focus on. And that's our requirements of applicants. So this is something you need to look through and make sure that you meet all these things before you apply, because there are things that you need to be potentially accepted in the program. So first of all, you do have to be 18 years of age or older by the start date of the program, okay? So what that means is that you'll notice that the day we're starting for next year's program is in August of 2022. So you need to be 18 by August of 2022. The reason for that is because our department only serves people who are of adult age, okay? So that is required. That doesn't, you can apply if you're not 18 yet, but you have to make sure that, you know, do your calendar math and make sure you'll be 18 by then, right? You also do need to live in Johnson County. Johnson County Developmental Supports is a department of Johnson County government, so that's who we provide services to. So you do need to live in the Johnson County area. You do need to be able to pass a drug screen and background check, which is a common employment requirement, which is why we need to have that so that internships can accept you. As I talked about before, in some situations, if you're 18 but still in school and that's your last year of eligibility for school services, then you could apply and use this as your transition program for your last year of eligibility. That would be one of the exceptions to still being in school. And then access to a funding source. So this tends to be one of the more confusing parts. I'll explain it the best I can. But basically, to be in project search, we have to be able to secure a funding source for you. The most common thing that is used is home and community-based services, HCBS. I'm going to explain that a bit more later with another part of the application, but just to give a quick explanation for that is, all of our interns have to be CDDO eligible, and after you're CDDO eligible, that is something you can apply for. You also might still be on the waiting list for HCBS. If you are on the waiting list or you aren't eligible for HCBS, then we have in the past been able to secure other funding sources. We don't have all of our information about that for next year though. So if you don't have HCBS, you can still apply, and that's something we're going to be looking into and we'll be letting you know about. Okay. Anything I'm forgetting about that, Chris? Okay. Yeah, right. Right. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Can you I'll make note that you wanted to ask a question when we get to the next question section. I'll answer it then. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just before I go to this, I know this part this tends to be where there's more questions in, so I totally understand because it is a little intimidating to navigate at first, but everyone who's applying for projects or everyone who's wants to be in our project search program does need to be CDDO eligible. Some of you might hear that and be like, oh, Forrest, I know exactly what that is, or I took care of that. Don't worry about it, right? And some people are going to look at that and be like, what's that? Okay. So CDDO eligibility, CDDO stands for Community Developmental Disability Organization. They're basically the entry point for intellectual and developmental disability services in our county. So they have entrance criteria to determine if people are eligible for the IDD waiver. And so basically when you call them, if you think you might be eligible for services, they'll set an appointment with you and do an assessment with you to determine if you qualify. And I won't go into the total nitty gritty about it, but the way they qualify you is they look to see if you have like some sort of prior diagnosis of a developmental disability, and then they're going to assess you on life skill criteria, basically determine if you have needs in different life skill areas. So some of you might be like, oh, I haven't done that yet, Forrest, or I'm still confused about what that is. That's okay. You can still apply. Just know that that is something you're going to have to approach and complete before you can do project search. It's a requirement. And as I mentioned before, if you've already done that in order to do the HCBS funding stuff, great. That puts you in a better position in that area. Some other requirements for participants. So before, these were like the logistical checkbox stuff, right? These are some of the more behavioral things that we kind of need and look for in interns, okay? We're a transition to work program, and so our intention is to help people build on their work skills so they can be successful at work. However, there are some things that you already need to have some mastery of to have a good chance of being successful at completing the program. So interns do need to have kind of a base level of independent daily living skills. So for example, if you take medications, project searches that administers medications during the day, you have to be able to self-administer those, or they're administered outside of our hours. And also, you know, just hygiene, grooming, being able to kind of basics of getting ready and getting to work. You need to be able to maintain appropriate behavior and social skills in the workplace. Again, we're a training program, so it's not that people need to be perfect at all this stuff. Sometimes people do come to us to work on some of those things, but it does need to be at a level to where you're a good fit for a host businesses. And then being able to take direction from staff and supervisors and change your behavior. So following directions, right? You need to be able to listen to what someone's asking you to do and willing to do it. You need to be able to communicate effectively. Now, to be clear, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be able to speak, but you need to have ways to communicate what you're thinking or feeling or what you need. It could be like by writing things down or something like that too. But we need to be able to have solutions for you to effectively communicate with who you're working with, right? And then this is really important, but you must be interested in getting a job, because that's the whole point of our program, right? If you don't want to work, we're probably not the best program fit for you. Again, the goal is to be working after the program is over, so we want interns to be committed to doing that. We're not really designed to be something that you just find to do for 9 months. We're something that we're trying to help you reach the specific goal. So the idea is that you're doing this, doing the training, and then getting to work right after that. Okay. And then interns do need to complete an assessment with us. Typically what we do is we have an assessment day where we have everyone come in and do mock workstations and do interviews, and it's this big event. And we're hoping, yeah, and usually we have a pizza lunch. That's always nice. We're hoping we get to do that this year. However, it is possible that that still won't be the best option. We just don't really know yet. So what we did this year and last year was individual appointments, which works fine too. We still get to do the cool lunch. And so if we have to do that, that'll be during our March of spring break. So the date for that's in the application. I believe it's the in-person day. If we end up being able to do that, it's planned for March 11th, but if not, it'll be that following week during spring break. We'll be setting up appointments with people who applied. Okay. And you know, the thing with the assessments is that, you know, sometimes I feel like people get nervous for those, but it's really not supposed to be an intimidating thing. All we're really trying to do is get to kind of know about you and what your work skills are currently at, and just make sure that it's a good fit for you, right? I like to think we're pretty nice. All right. I know that was a lot at once. So yes, questions. I think Marilyn was going to ask something. Was that Marilyn or was that someone else?
You did first. Yeah.
And I have another question in the chat also. Yeah, go ahead.
Why isn't one of the requirements current COVID vaccinations? You showed us some of the job skills that you're going to teach: handling dirty linens, sheets, washing pots and pans that are dirty, cleaning bathrooms. Those are ideal places for the COVID virus to reside in. And if the applicants are going to be handling that kind of material, I mean, yeah, rubber gloves is that helps a little bit, but all it takes is one mistake and they've come in contact with the virus.
Yeah.
Tell me why having everyone vaccinated is not a good idea.
Well, so with the vaccinations, what we do is we follow the guidelines of our host businesses. So what we follow the lead of our host business about what guidelines to follow. And so in terms of getting vaccinations, people are of course welcome to do that, but neither of our host businesses are currently requiring it. That's basically what's going on with that. And that could change. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where we're going to do what our host businesses ask us to do. So if next week Johnson County government comes to me and says, hey, Forrest, we're going to have all our employees get vaccinated from now on, I'm going to say, hey, guys, guess what? We got to get vaccinated from now on. But they also might not decide that. It's just about doing what your employer is asking you to do. And that is a fair point that at this time, it's hard to know what things are going to be like next year. And maybe things will be better by that point, but perhaps not. And it's something to consider when you're considering applying, is that we do follow the host business guidelines. And if what they're doing at that time may or may not be in your comfort zone. So it's just something to think about. We understand why there's concerns for sure. Oh yeah, and sorry, Chris, you wanted to add something?
The off-site rotations, like if we do go to the
Yes.
hospital, they require it. So it just depends on.
That is a good point. So like, for example, we do have one offsite rotation that does require the vaccine. And so only people who are vaccinated can go to that one. And then, but at the same time, we also have other internships that might make different decisions in Johnson County government. And so you are looking at doing a work experience where you're going to be trying a variety of potential places and they might have different requirements too. So, I mean, just to be transparent about that. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
It does, yeah.
Okay. And that was a good question. So let me, okay, and I have a direct message for one. I'm going to summarize a bit here, but it looks like what they're asking is, someone who's considering applying who has areas of concerns with interpersonal communication skills and workplace etiquette. And so, yes, right. So like I said, we're a transition to work program and we do help people master some of those things. And it's hard to know for sure if the person's a good applicant or not until we assess them and get to meet them, right? we're not asking people to be perfect, but we also need to be at a level where we can realistically work on those things within the boundaries of our program, because we want to help people learn to improve, but we also have host business expectations to follow. I know that's not a complete answer, but it's really a case-by-case basis. It really depends on exactly what kind of workplace etiquette and communication skill needs you're talking about. Is there any other questions? Really good questions. See, I'm not mean about questions. I'm totally fine with them. Okay. So I'm gonna keep going then. I think we're switching back to, actually, let me double check. Yes, so we're gonna switch back to Chris for a bit. Thanks, guys.
All right. Let's see here. So we're going to be talking about some of the philosophies of project search and how they're in your handbook as well. But the most important one is employment first, meaning that your commitment to employment should be higher than your commitment to, like, I don't know, we have a lot of people that want to do Special Olympics things. They have a lot of things that they want to, take time off for. We do allow some time off from our program to do certain things. But when it comes to, well, I can't work Monday nights because I have bowling or something. I mean, maybe that's not the best example, but just keep that in mind, that the more flexible you are with employment, the easier it will be for you to find. And then the employment process it's a process, right? So it could take a little while depending on what you're looking for, where your skill set is when you graduate, those kind of things. It's not to get frustrated about the process, and just going through it as best you can. And then the commitment to employment never ends. So, like, even if when you find a job, you have to maintain that job, and if you want to continue to build your skills, doing that on the job as well. And we kind of teach some of those things about how to find different things on your job that you can do that your company may not have realized before. Finding just those little side tasks that you can do as well. And another real big one we have here is adult status, right? So setting appropriate adult boundaries that are those who are chronologically 18 and over, typically experienced, right? So equal citizenship, enhanced community integration, that kind of thing. Treating you with business or professional boundaries. A lot of times teachers and stuff may have a little more gray area of that, but just really sticking to a professional relationship where we hold you accountable for your actions and try to get you to see more like an adult, like doing things for yourself. Maybe a lot of times people come into the program and they don't know when they have doctor's appointments. They don't know what's going on with that kind of stuff, but just being a little more self-advocacy. Again, it's a training program, so we realize that may not be something that people have had experience with, but we'll kind of help with that, and just being open-minded to being adult status and having consequences for actions. Then again, the flow chart on page 4 kind of just goes through the application process again. 18, Johnson County resident, CDD eligible. We do ask that the application we sent you in the mail or by email, have it back to us by February. A lot of times, we're a little flexible on that just because, sometimes you have to gather all your documents and things. Then we'll have our assessment in March, and then sometime in April, you'll hear about your acceptance status. On that flow chart on page 4, they have all the information you need to contact CDDO. I think Gail Laurie's number's on that information. She's really the main contact for the CDDO to make sure you're eligible. She's really friendly. You just call her up. She'll send you an email. She'll do all that kind of stuff. Then the required documentation. We send out the main application and then the self-assessment and the parent and or support assessment. So those two things look very similar. But we kind of just want to see where the intern thinks they are and how they feel their skills are currently, and then maybe someone that knows them a little better might be able to shed some light as well. So there's no huge gaps between expectations there. A color photo wallet size, that just kind of helps us put a name to the face or a face to the name, I guess. We get applications and we're like, well, I don't know who that is. And
It's a lot less confusing.
then, yeah, until we meet you at the assessment day, then we can kind of already kind of see you. That doesn't have to be like a portrait shot. It doesn't have to go down to the JC Penney's or whatever, if they still even do that. It could just be a little selfie thing that you can print off. You can even email us one. We can just have it on file if you don't want to print it out and send it. State ID or driver's license, if you have it, you will need to have that kind of stuff once you get a job. So it's always good to kind of have that available. You might as well just get it going, because if your ultimate goal is employment, you'll need that information anyway. Then access to your social security card is kind of knowing where it is. We can take a copy, but sometimes businesses will want the original, and so we'll just have to make sure we know where you guys know where the original is as well. Oh yeah, and I've already kind of talked about the self-preparation assessment and the parent support. Just as much as possible, the intern would fill out their own, so they can show express their opinions and their abilities and what they want to do. And then the other one would be for someone that's close to them that would have their interests in mind as well. And so it says on there, most recent IEP. That's only if you're under 22 years of age. If you have one and you want to give it to us, it could still be relevant. I know, but after you've been out of high school for a while, that kind of stuff loses its main purpose, I guess. Hopefully people have changed a little bit. Then if you do currently have a case manager or receiving services, you would have a person-centered support plan. If you don't have one of those, that's fine as well. And then just any kind of formal training you might have. If you've gone through Access, if you've gone through any other 18 to 21 program where they've done some employment stuff, just give us some of your employment background. That way we can kind of see what you've done, some of the skills you might have already had. That kind of goes with the career assessments too. Like if you've gone through workforce partnership, we will be doing that as part of our program too. But if you already have a career assessment through whatever agency, go ahead and send all that stuff. And pretty much just anything that's that would be employment related. If you have a resume, great, we'll take it. If you have letters of recommendation, we'll take that too. Just whatever you feel like you might have. So I guess that was kind of a short section.
Yeah.
Any questions about that so far? I think maybe I don't know if I have more or. Oh, no, that's it. Oh, could be. So if does anyone have any questions? I can't really see what's going on here, but nothing in the chat. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to Bernadette. She's going to be doing our partners and transportation and answering all that kind of stuff. And so here she is, whenever you want to.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, you might need to click on
Click back on
you might need to click on the slideshow again.
Clicked on
You need to Okay, thanks. So this is page 9 and it's transportation. So we use for transportation ride KC Freedom. In the outlying areas of Johnson County are Stillwell, Gardner, DeSoto. Sometimes with transportation, if you are able to drive, people who are able to drive can drive to the program. We've had a few interns be able to do that. Sometimes if a person feels like they're having to get ready too early in the morning for the bus, parents have driven an intern and then had the bus pick them up in the afternoon. So things like that, like on the part where we say private providers and things like that. We've tried other options too. It just depends on what your needs are, but we do try to always work something out so far as transportation. Our workforce partnership, workforce provides funding for the transportation for the project search interns during the year. when they're able to give us more funding, they also provide wages for the interns, and that usually happens second or third rotation. They do have to enroll with them to receive those benefits though. So at the beginning, like a project search, you'll have to go in the workforce, you'll have to have paperwork, birth certificates, social security cards and things like that, and provide those to workforce. They'll make appointments with you to do that because they need those things. And then when workforce starts, they'll need things like a bank account to be able to send the wages to. So that's how that'll work. Then the Olathe School District. So the Olathe School District, who Susie Carey, who we introduced to you guys earlier, they provide us a skills trainer, and Susie assists us with the program. They also provide sometimes interns, people who they feel would benefit from the program. So that's our partnership with Olathe Public Schools. So we also partner with vocational rehabilitation, and we work with the Kansas Department for Children and Family Services. They're a provider for the vocational rehabilitation. And we enroll with them as the Johnson County Developmental Services provider. So usually after the intern is finishing up the program, they will go into vocational rehabilitation. They'll have an employment specialist, and the employment specialist will help them find a job after project search. Then our educational partner, which is Johnson County Community College. At our adult project search, we must be accredited to be an adult education partner. Our program partners with Johnson County Community College. Recently, Johnson County Community College has given us computer classes. So we can teach interns about computer skills and things like that. Also, we work toward getting a transportation class so that after project search, people will know how to get transportation and things like that, how much it costs, how much money they'll need, things like that. And then, is this still me, guys? Okay, this is our graduation photo from Johnson County Community College. So every year we have a graduation, and those are very, very happy interns right there.
All right, this is me again.
I knew I was coming up.
Yeah. This part's a little tricky.
Yeah, I always enjoy those graduations. Okay. I want to spend a second to focus a little bit on page 11, because it tends to be the part people get the most confused at. And I did change it a little bit this year to hopefully make it a little bit more clear, but if it's subject matter you're not familiar with, I can see why it still may be a little confusing. So on page 11, it asks 2 questions there in the first half, which are the things I kind of talked about earlier, which is if you're eligible for the developmental disabilities waiver through the CDDO, and if you have access to HCPS funding. Okay. If you don't know the answer to those questions, the best thing for you to do is to call the CDDO. Their number is provided in the application in a couple places. It's 913-826-2626. Ask to speak to the CDDO. And they will help, they'll look you up and tell you where you're at, if you started the process or not, if you have access to funding or not. Okay. But it is 2 distinct questions. Sometimes I think these 2 things get kind of merged together on accident. So if you have eligibility, that is what you need to be able to participate in the program in the first place. Okay. After you're eligible for that, you're able to apply for HCPS funding with them. So it's like a 2-step process. You start off with the eligibility with them, and then if they find you eligible, they're gonna be like, okay, great. Would you like to apply for HCPS funding? which I think is good to at least look into if you qualify for it. If you already have the HCBS funding, then we're going to ask you to put in your managed care information. So there's only 3 providers of that. There's Sunflower Health Plan, United Healthcare, and Aetna. And then you should have a care coordinator with them if you have HCBS funding. So we like to have their information as well. You don't have to have HCBS funding to participate in project search necessarily. That just means that we have to find an alternative funding source for you to be able to participate. And we look at those on a year-to-year basis. Okay. So that's what's going on there. But if you are already eligible and you already have HCBS funding, great. And just indicate that and provide the information. Okay. So this is kind of the last part, but I want to go through and give a couple of examples of, again, some previous year interns. We looked at some slides from people before. Okay. But these are people who finished the program, got employment, and kind of, I guess, are kind of the 3 main types of applicants we see. So this first one's Tyler. He was someone who really hadn't worked very much at all before project search, so maybe done some work experiences, but hadn't gotten a job before. So he came to project search just to kind of explore some things and see how work looks for him and try to get a job with that. And then he got a job through us with the Embassy Suites on the maintenance team, which is where Chris and Bernadette are, right? This next person had tried some work before. They had tried to look for jobs prior to doing project search, but were having a hard time finding success. And so they wanted us to try to refine their skills with them to see if they could be more successful. And it worked for this particular person. They started working successfully part-time, which is something he wasn't sure he was going to be able to do prior to that. And then this last person, Jacob, was working successfully already before he started project search. However, he wanted to try some different type of jobs and see if he could do something big, bigger to him, something that paid more, did more hours, which worked out for him too. He ended up getting a job at the sheriff's office and just fingerprinting there. So again, so you might be someone who hasn't had much work experience yet, or maybe just hasn't been finding success finding a job or keeping a job, or maybe you are already working successfully but just want to try some new stuff. Those will all be good reasons to maybe consider applying. Okay. And then a couple other quick things. One good thing to look into before doing project search or starting to work in general is to talk to a benefits specialist if you receive benefits. So you might get something like SSI or SSDI. And when you start working, the amount of money you make can impact your benefits. A lot of times, I'm speaking generally, but a lot of times it generally tends to work out where you're ultimately making more money when you're working, and you might still maintain some of your benefits, but it does kind of depend on what kind of job you're looking at getting and what your benefits actually are. So, and it's too complex a thing for me. So it's better to talk to an expert about it. So we do have some information here. Like we mentioned, we'll be sending some information out after this, and this will be something you'll have access to if you're interested in getting some benefits counseling. And then finally, I just want to leave up contact information for Chris and I. If you're trying to apply, or if you have some more questions to make your decisions, you're welcome to reach out to us to ask those questions. Either one of us is fine. Again, I think we're both pretty nice. Whoever's less intimidating to you, I guess, whatever. And we'll help you answer those questions about the program or what you need to apply, anything like that. And that's our last slide. So we made pretty good time on this one. Is there any other questions before we finish up?
I have one.
Sure.
Forrest, about how many people are in the program totally for the year? Or
It's a good
during the-
question. Yeah. Okay. So generally, first I'm going to do a typical year, and then I'm going to do a COVID years thing. So typically we have about 7 to 10 interns at Johnson County government and about 6 at Embassy Suites. So it's a total of 16 people upwards of. The amount we take depends on the applicants we get. Now, recent years, we've haven't been able to accommodate as many people for a variety of reasons. So this year we have 5 in each class, so 10 total. Hopefully that'll improve for next year. Again, I'd like to think so, but I've liked to think so before and it hasn't quite totally shook out yet. So we'll just have to see. But typically it's upwards of 16 that we can take. Now, oh no, I had another thought and I lost it. What was I going to say, Chris? I don't remember. Did that answer your question though?
Well, I wondered, do you have a capacity or?
Yeah. So yeah, so like I was saying, like we wouldn't really be able to do more than 16 people total because we don't have the staffing or internship availability for that. So there is a limit on how many people we can take per year. Yeah.
Okay.
When we do assessments, we look at people's applications and what we learn from their assessments, and we do rubrics for each person and make decisions based off of that. Like we said before, we're looking for people who are in a place to build on themselves at one of our host businesses. At the same time, it's also possible we've had people who are overqualified, so people who maybe don't seem like they need a 9-month training program to start working, that maybe they're already ready. So we're looking kind of between those two poles, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was a really good question. Any other questions? So that's in the video. Okay. Well, if that's it, it was really great having you all here today. Like we said, please reach out to us if you have any questions. Love hearing from people. It breaks up my day, right? And I hope all of you have a good night, and hopefully we'll see some applications from some of you. So thank you for being here, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
We gotta keep this together.
Yeah.
Let me go check to make sure I have your social security